Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joe's Video Game, back with another really cool arcade game video for you. This is a repair video. I don't know how long it'll be, but we've got this game that's been sitting here in our shop for quite a while. It is a Williams 1976, I believe, Spanish Eyes pinball machine. This is a one player, and it's in kind of rough shape, so we're going to fix it up and see what happens. I don't know how much cosmetic stuff we're going to do to it yet, but you can see the back glass has some issues, so we're going to see if we can repaint some of that. And also there's even a crack in the back glass. We won't be fixing that. The playfield's in pretty good shape, but it's got a little bit of wear around the pop bumpers, but it's pretty clean, you know, it ain't too bad. The cabinet's faded. I don't know what we're going to do about that yet, but I just started working on it, and we've gotten to the point on these old EMs like this that we don't even plug them in anymore, because you know they don't work. So we're going to go through and clean them up a little bit first. This is the back, the head box. I figured we'd start back here. It's a little dark, so it's kind of hard to see, but we've got these score reels here. You got to get them all cleaned up where they're working good. And then you've got these stepper units here. This is, let's see what they're calling this. This is the match unit here. See the little spider they show on there? And then on this side we've got it's a little dark, but we've got a coil here that's got some brown marks on the wrapper. That coil may be burned up, or it could just be that it was locked on. But basically, to get these things working, you need every connection working, being clean, and then closing and opening state whenever, changing state whenever it does its thing. So basically on something like this, a stepper unit, whenever this coil pulls in, it should move this spider on the other side. And as you can see, maybe it's not moving too good. It's like, yeah, I'm pushing it down with my finger to get it to move. And they've got this spring here that they've stretched out, so that needs to be all rebuilt. This is the ball count unit here. So this is the same thing. On this side, you can't really see it because it's dark, but there's another spider over there. And basically, whenever this pulls up, whenever this coil over here pulls up, that should move. And it actually did move. So it should step up one step each time. And so basically all these little fingers on the spiders connect different traces together, which make different wires connect together, it's basically an archaic computer. That's how they work. So basically you need all of these to step up each time the coil pulls, and then whenever the other coil pulls to reset it, it should either reset back to the beginning or reset back one step, however it's designed to work. And then, of course, all of this has to be clean too, so that whenever the finger touches the metal, that it conducts electricity. So you've got to clean everything and oil it and get everything adjusted just right where it touches everything right and all that. And then down here you've got some relays. I've already cleaned and adjusted these. I don't think they're marked, and the paper probably fell off of them, but you're looking at like the 1-point relay, the 10-point relay, the 100-point relay, the 1,000-point relay, and then this might be a reset relay. Whenever you start the game, the reset relay goes in and it resets all the scores and resets all the bonus things on the main playfield. And so right here is the credit unit. These aren't as important because I usually put them on free play, but basically this does the same thing. Whenever you put a quarter in, it ratchets back one way, and then whenever you take a credit off, it ratchets back the other way. So you have to get this basically doing the same thing. Every time this coil goes in, you should see that wheel go up. It looks like it may be all the way maxed out. And whenever time this one goes in, you should see the wheel go back the other way. So it ain't working right. We got to go through that. And then another little thing that you've got is these. These are called Jones plugs. They plug in right there. And it's a way to disconnect the head from the body whenever they're transported. And anytime you have a connector anywhere on a game, that's always a weak point. You could have problems there. So I didn't clean this side yet, just to give you an idea. We'll hold it in the light here so you can see. All right. See how corroded those are? That's just oxidation from just sitting, you know. This thing's 40 years old, so you can see just how it's all gummed up. So on the other side, I've cleaned it. You can see you get it nice and shiny like that, and it makes good contact. So that one's how it should be. And that's how this side is. That's how the other side was before I cleaned it. And this one here, I've cleaned both sides. You can clean it with like a wire brush or some fine sandpaper or something like that. And as you can see, I didn't clean the inside of them because it doesn't touch anything. So it's not really all that important. But the outside, it's a little dark so you can't see, but these things are kind of like C-shaped, so they touch the sides and the outside post. It'd be better if you cleaned the whole post, but it's just harder to do the inside of it. And then you've also got similar things here. These are to, well, if I can get it to focus. Focus, there we go. You've got, these are settings to, these are like little just individual posts. It's to set your high score. You just put it into place. If something like this is dirty, basically your high score won't work. I mean, you're winning a free game for the high score won't work. And then you've got this here, which is a, it says a number match adjustment on off. And so this little thing is a small Jones plug. If it's on this side, you're on. If it's on this side, you're off. And then over here, you've got another connector, which I have no clue what that is. I just pulled it off. I'll have to find the thing. It's just a little jumper, it appears, that connects a couple wires together, so I'll have to look in the manual to see what that even does. It may have to do with changing from 3-ball to 5-ball. But this is just the back of it. And this is a one-player, which is very simple. So I figured I'd just shoot a little video showing you kind of what's going on in its as found state. So once we clean all the Jones plugs, once we clean all the relays and adjust them, once we clean and adjust the credit wheel, once we clean and adjust the ball count unit, once we clean and adjust the match unit, we can go down in the bottom of the cabinet and look at that. So what I'll do is I'll get started on cleaning all this stuff, and then I'll film a little video once we get done with it. All right, folks, got a little more light on the situation. I figured I would show you how the score reels work. This one here I haven't messed with yet. This is how they typically look when you get them in. Lots of dirt. You can see there's a little PCB board down in there that gets a ton of gunk on it. Basically, a problem that you see in a lot of these is that they put lubricant on it and then it dries up and gets all gummy and greasy and dirty, and it makes it where the contacts don't connect. And that's on everything. You see, the worst possible thing you can do to a pinball machine, or basically anything electrical, is spray WD-40 on it. WD-40 is fine for some things, but when it gets old, a couple years old, it just turns to almost glue. So I mean, don't put WD-40 on it. If you're going to put some kind of oil on something, use like a 3-in-1 oil or something like that, some kind of machine oil. It'll be a real light oil that almost feels like water. But if you put WD-40 on it, it's convenient to spray in there and all that, but after a year or two, it just turns into complete ugh. Ugh. Anyway, so here I've redone this one and reassembled it. Now my strong point isn't cleaning, so you'll see there's still some dirt on the inside of it and everything. I got the outside cleaned up pretty good. And basically the way these work, if you look at, see those three, I'm trying to situate it where you can see it well. Whoop. These little switches here. Basically, when the coil pulls in this plunger here, it makes the wheel spin, which changes where the little contacts are touching on this plate here, which is only used for the match, this little PCB board. And again, this is a Williams machine. They're slightly different from the other ones, but they all work about the same. This plunger pulls in like that, and then whenever it releases, it pushes the score reel up one more. And so you need to get it where it's doing that really. And when it does it really fast, so it's like this. So you need to get it where every time it's doing that, it's pushing it forward one. And it should click into place. You know, it shouldn't be able to go past where it's supposed to go so that it lands on the correct number. And so basically, we're on 3 right now. So we'll spin it around 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're on 8. When it gets to 9, it presses the 9 position switch. If I could get it lined up where you can see it well. Okay, there we go. The bottom one. Can I watch when I go to 9? Whoop, this is hard to do with one hand. Whoop, I didn't press it. Watch when I get to 9. Okay, so here's 9. See how it made the bottom switch connect? That's the 9 position switch. And the reason it does that is because the next time that you get, like say if this is the 1 point reel, the next time it pulses 1 point, since that switch is connected, it'll also pulse the 10 point. That switch is connected over to the next score reel. So on the next one, whenever it goes through, it gives you 1 point, which will change the 9 over to 0. And then it also pulses through and gives you 1 point on the 10 reel, which will make the 0 go to 1 on the 10 reel, which gives you 10 points. And all of this sounds real complicated, but it's super, super simple. It's all on and off. It's all real simple logic. It's just, it looks complicated because there's so much stuff, hundreds of switches, but they're all either on or off. It's very, very simple. The other thing that happens when it gets to 0 is it gets to what they call home position. So see how all 3 switches are connected right now? Watch when it finally goes over to 0 when I let go of this. Now they're all open. And that's how it knows when it's at 0. Whenever that top switch, maybe the middle switch, I don't know, but one of those switches, whenever it opens, it tells the basically the reset relay that it's at 0. I can't remember what the other one does, but anyway, it's just logic. And so basically, whenever it's on anything but 0, the top 2 are closed and the bottom one's open. And so you keep going around. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 makes it make the bottom one. And then 0 opens them all up. So basically, if you get it where it's doing that reliably, your score reels are going to work really good. The Williams score reels, in my opinion, are pretty well done. They work really well. Sometimes you'll also get where the wires are broke, where it solders onto these lugs, or where it solders onto the switches that we were just talking about here. Whoop. Sometimes those wires will break right on the solder joint. So if you run into that, that's a problem. But they're pretty reliable. The Gottlieb ones, depending on the year, some of them are really good, some of them are horrible. The ones from the late 60s multiplayers, I had some of those, and they were just a nightmare. They had a lot of problems where if the switches didn't connect good enough that it wouldn't reliably, like if it was supposed to pulse four times, it might only pulse 2 or whatever. But well, I guess it would be 5. If it was supposed to pulse 5 times, it would only pulse 3 or something like that. And it had all kinds of problems with how the switches were adjusted on the play field, to how the score reels wouldn't turn quite as good as they're supposed to. And but yeah, any of them you can get working well again. The Williams ones, in my opinion, are pretty easy to work on, and the Bally ones, in my opinion, were pretty easy to work on. But they changed the design a little bit depending on the year as well. So these are the late 70s Williams score reels. Pretty simple in my opinion. They're all pretty simple design, about the same, but some of them just don't step and reset as well. And some of these relays you will have on some games where they have a different throw. They don't go in as far, so you have to have the switches closer, which is kind of complicated. I'll see if I can show you that as well. You might not be able to see enough contrast there to tell. Let's see if one of them shows up well. Well, no. I'll have to do one in the bottom or something where you can see it a little better. But basically, whenever this relay pulls in, whenever it sends power through the wire here or this actually grounds it, but whenever it engages the relay, basically this little blade goes in and it pushes all of the little connections together. So they should be open and then close whenever that goes in. Or if it's already closed, it should open when it goes in. It should just, each switch should reverse state. That's kind of tricky to understand, but once you get it, you kind of go, oh. And then you don't even really need schematics. You can just go through and make sure everything's changing state. And if they're conducting well, and if you get everything clean, it'll work well. Here's the stepper thing that we were talking about. You can see it a little better with the light. And there's that burnt coil we were talking about. You can see a little better with the light. So I'll keep working through this, and we'll come back and film a couple other things here in a minute. All right, I went ahead and cleaned all of the score reels. I haven't tested them yet because I still haven't plugged the machine in, but I've got all of those clean. I've got the Jones plugs clean and plugged back in. I've got all of these relays clean. So now all I've got left is the credit wheel here, the replay unit they call it in Williams. The ball count unit, which is very important. Let me back out a little bit. Credit unit, ball count unit, and then this is the match unit. I just took it loose because it was the next one I got to, and because I was curious about that burnt coil. See how that's all burnt up? That doesn't necessarily mean that the coil's bad. It could just mean that the coil got really hot because it was energized a lot. So what I did was I looked in the schematics, and the way this thing's wired, there's a orange and red wire that comes off of it. Basically, this match unit, it's just kind of a thing that they use to try to make a random number, basically. So basically, every time you score 10 points, this steps up, and it makes that little metal thing on the other end hit the bell. So every time you score 10 points, you hit a bell. And that's how it gets kind of a random number for the match. And some other things that run through it. That's why it's got so many wires on it. But the only way that fires, this orange wire here, comes off of the 10-point relay. I said earlier, the 1-point relay, there isn't one in this game. It has a fake first player reel, so that all the scores are at least 10 points. So this 10-point relay, whenever it's connected, it goes together, and it's supposed to make that fire. But since that's all brown, and that's not even connected, the problem is that the coil's shorted. So if you we don't know that the coil's shorted until I checked it, but then I checked it with the multimeter, and you're only getting 0.2 ohms resistance across it. You should get, on any coil, you should get over like 2 ohms. Most of them will be up around 8 or 9 ohms. But since it's got less than 1 ohm, what that means is that this thing is actually burnt up, and the wire is almost a dead short inside of it. So that coil there is going to have to be replaced. If you turn on the game with that bad coil in there, it'll probably just lock on and stay on. Although it may not in an EM. I can't remember. Since that other wire is not even connected except to the thing, I don't know. But it's bad news. It'll have to be replaced. It's interesting though that it's not locked up. It's still, the plunger's still able to move in it. So anyway, so that's that. I'll show you the other side since you can see it better now, since I've got it removed. So basically that little spider there turns around and touches everything, and you can see all of the grease I was talking about on the tracks. That's some kind of lubricant somebody put on there, and it's gumming everything up now. So we'll get that all cleaned up. I'll find another coil to put on there, and we'll get it where it turns really well. Alright folks, I took the credit unit out. This is basically what shows you if you've got a quarter in the game, or a dime, or whatever it is. You can see this little window here on the front. That's what you see through the back glass. Right now it's on 1 credit. So when it is, you've got this big wheel, and each manufacturer is different, but they're all similar. I've got it kind of carefully perched up here. You can see they called it the replay unit in the Williams games. So basically this one here, and notice it also has some brown marks on it, but I think that's just I don't think this one's burned up. We're going to go with that for a little bit. But basically you have this wheel here, and on the other side it has the wheel with the numbers. So basically when this one goes in, it adds a credit, which moves this wheel this way. And whenever this one goes in, it takes away a credit, which makes the wheel go this way. And so on the front, you can see how many credits you have, and as you saw, we had 1 credit right now. And you can see on this wheel, this little post right here, and then another little post right here. Well, we're on 1 right now, and the post is awfully close to these little switches here. If you look really close, I don't know if the focus is going to allow you to see it. Oop. It's probably hard to tell from your vantage point. But essentially, these first 2 blades are touching. And then right past it, there's a blade that's really close but is not touching it. And then this big blade extends over here to beyond the post. And then it hits this little white piece. And if you see at the end of it, there are 2 blades touching right here. So each of those switches has a wire soldered to it. It's doing different things. So basically, whenever, right now we've got 1 credit, so if I hit the start button, it's going to take away a credit. And what it'll do is it will move this post over by turning that wheel. And when it does, this switch will move just a little bit, just enough to take where it's no longer connected to this, and now it's connected to the next one. And at the same time, that white spacer will open up these 2 switches here so that they're not touching anymore. Like that. It's just barely, because it's just going to move a little bit. And so when it does that, whenever this switch and this switch are no longer touching, see how now if I press them, they're connected together? There's tension on them. They're electrically connected. Whenever I take off that 1 more credit, it's going to say 0, right? And it's going to open up that switch. So now if you hit the start button, it won't work because the switch is open. If you add another quarter back in, this post will move up 1 little spot to where it is now, and we'll connect it back together to where it has a credit on it. So let me see if I can get it to move without breaking something. So every time you hit this, every time this coil gets pulled in, it's because the game just got a credit in, and it turns that wheel there. Very hard to do with 1 hand. Alright, so now, if you go around to the front, we are on 14 credits, which is the other extreme. So I'll show you. I need about 3 more hands here to show you all of this. Okay. So now, remember, these are our switches that we were messing with that tell you that you're out of credits whenever you get to 0. And see, this bar has moved all the way over here now, so it's nowhere near it. So each time you take one off, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, right? But if you look on the other end, there's a bar over here. And wouldn't you know it, that sneaky little bar has went around and it's opened up this switch. See how they're not connected anymore? The reason that it did that is because they don't want you having more than 14 credits. That's what this particular one's set on. Now you could take that out and move it over here maybe. Maybe if you put it in this post, now you could get up to 20 credits or whatever. But whenever this switch opens, it no longer allows you to put a quarter in the game. Whenever you put it in, the quarter will fall back out. Or if you win a free game, it won't go up because this is open. So that's how it works. So I've got it, I cleaned it up a little bit, and I've got it where it's incrementing and decrementing, I believe those are the words, properly, so that this wheel is turning how it should. And I oiled it a little bit and got it doing its thing. So we'll bolt that back in and on to the ball count unit. All right, folks, I think we're done in the back here. I rebuilt those 5 relays. I didn't rebuild them, I just cleaned them and adjusted them. And I did rebuild the score reels. And I cleaned off the Jones plugs and these other little minor Jones plugs. I left that coil on there because I want to see if it locks on whenever I turn it on, so we'll see about that. But I've got this all stepping up like it should. Every time that coil goes in, or the actuator goes in, it steps up. You can see we've got it nice and shiny on the pads there. Rebuilt the replay unit there so that it steps up and down like it should. And then finally rebuilt the ball count unit so that it steps up and down like it should. It was a little bit of an issue. It was kind of hard to figure out. This one over here steps it up. If you look at the spider there, you'll see it go up. Okay, and then this one steps it down, and I was having a problem where it wasn't stepping down. It's got this weird little ratcheting mechanism here so that it only moves one. And so I was having all kinds of issues, and I couldn't figure it out. I finally figured out that what happened was a previous owner had worked on this, and there's a little screw right there. See that? I had to add that. There it is. I had to add, need some focus here. I had to add that bolt so that that plunger doesn't come all the way out, because that's how it's supposed to be. That bolt was missing, basically. They had taken it loose. You can see there's one on our little burnt coil there too. That bolt gives you an adjustment so that you can make it where it does the ratcheting action properly with these little bars and things. So that one was missing. I figured it out finally, put it in, adjusted it, and got it where it's resetting and stepping up and stepping down. So you know what that means. That is it for the back of the cabinet. So I'll move this back up against the wall. Now, you know, after we get it run, I still haven't turned it on. So after we get it up and running, there'll probably be adjustments that I have to make. But coming around here to the front, you can see the back glass. I've got everything on 1 right now so that whenever it resets, I can just make sure that everything's resetting fine and everything. And our credit wheel is showing through that window. So the next thing that I'll do on the next video is we'll work through the bottom of the cabinet. So things we'll have to mess with here is the score motor. We've got a lot of relays over here that are keeping everything running. We've got fuses, of course. More Jones plugs. Even more Jones plugs. And then we've got the bottom of the playfield and all of the mechanisms that make the playfield work. And then we've also got this reset bar over here. Always fun. So we'll do that next time. I will see you on the next video.